Great. This Monday, October 20th, 2025, meeting of the City of Madison Plan Commission. And we will start with roll call. Director Tuttle.
Good evening. Alder Field.
Here.
Alder Glenn. Here. Alder Ugair.
Here.
Commissioner Bazine.
Here.
Commissioner Heck.
Here.
Commissioner McCahill.
Here.
Commissioner Sanders.
Here.
Commissioner Solheim.
Here.
Alternate Wisniewski. Chair Gnob.
Here.
All right. That's everyone.
All right, thanks. We will start as usual with some technical information from our facilitator, Jesse Poole.
All right, welcome to our virtual Plan Commission meeting. You can share documentation. Oh, I skipped over here. Some script here. Members of the public who have registered to speak, when your name is called, I got the wrong script up here. Sorry, guys. All right. Members of the public who have registered to speak, your name must match the name you entered in registration. You will remain muted until called upon. If you need to share documentation with the Plan Commission, please send it to the email listed in today's agenda. Chair, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Jesse. The first item on our agenda is our time for public comment on topics not on the formal agenda. Director Tuttle, do we have any registrants for item 1?
There are no registrants for this item, Chair.
All right, thank you. Next, we have disclosures and recusals. Any members of the Plan Commission should make required disclosures or recusals under the city's ethics code. Does anyone have any disclosures or recusals to share? All right, hearing none, we will pick up our minutes from our last regular meeting of October 6, 2025. I guess first I'll ask if there are any additions or corrections to the minutes as they've been shared. And if not, would anyone like to make a motion to approve the minutes of our October 6th meeting? Alder Ugair, thank you. Alder Glenn, thank you. Any discussion? Commissioner Sanders.
Thank you. I just want to abstain from this since I was not present for that meeting.
That sounds good. So noted. Any Commissioner Solheim? I think.
Same for me.
Okay. So with 2 abstentions, is there any objection to otherwise unanimous approval for the minutes or the draft minutes? All right. We will record those as approved with those 2 abstentions. Thank you. All right. Just as a reminder for our schedule of meetings, our next regular meeting is in 2 weeks, Monday, November 3rd. Then we'll meet on November 17th. And then in December, our meetings will be on December 1st and December 15th. All of those will be virtual meetings at 5:30 p.m. I think no surprises there. So if you have any conflicts, just let Megan and me know if you can. So we will go to new business and we'll start with our consent agenda. It's a little complicated. Hopefully you had a chance to read some of the background information on the consent agenda. The first item if it's all right, the first item I think we'll ask for consent on is the correction to our printed agenda. So item 10 on our printed agenda basically has a typo regarding the number of units that are involved in the development under item 10. All of the materials in the posting were correct and listed as 91 units as opposed to 36 units. It's just in the agenda item that it used a different number than we should have. I think that's one of the threshold numbers as opposed to the actual number. So I would look for, if possible, I would look for just a motion on consent to amend our printed agenda so that to reflect that we're going to consider the correct number of units on that. Alder Ugair, thank you. Commissioner Solheim, thank you. Any discussion or questions on this item? Any objection to unanimous approval for the amendment or the correction to the printed agenda? All right, seeing none, thank you. We'll record that as effectuated. Now we still have 3 buckets of consent items. The first bucket is approval items, and the items on the approval consent agenda are agenda item 2, agenda item 3, item 4 and 5, and then item 9, which are all listed for approval. I will note that items 4 and 5 are a project that we originally did not think was going to be eligible for consent items under our standards, but it does appear to meet the standards, which I forgot to read. So it's the custom of the Plan Commission to remove from the agenda those items on which staff members believe an application has been sufficiently reviewed to support approval with all of the conditions placed upon it by the various city departments, and in which the applicant accepts those conditions and there are no individuals who have registered to speak in opposition to those items. And so our items for the consent agenda approval are before you. Are there any requests or motions for separation on the approval items 2, 3, 4, 5, or 9? All right, seeing no hands for removal, for separation of those items, I will read those items into the agenda, and then we'll have a vote on the consent items. So item 2 is Legistar 89775, relating to the address at 7103 Mill Pond Road and 4402 Brant Road, or County Highway AB, in Alder District 16. And this is consideration of a major alteration to a conditional use in the Industrial General IG District for a landfill to allow Dane County to construct a sanitary landfill and offices for a sustainability campus. Item 3 is Legistar 89990, relating to 2017 South Stoughton Road in Alder District 16. And this relates to consideration of a conditional use in the Industrial Limited IL District for a service business tenant, a tattoo parlor, in an existing multi-tenant building. Item 4 is Legistar 89078, creating section 28.022-00723 of the Madison General Ordinances to change the zoning of property located at 3357 and 3359 East Washington Avenue from TRV1, Traditional Residential Varied 1 District, to CCT, Commercial Corridor Transitional District, and this is in Alder District 12. Item 5 is Legistar 88777, relating to 922 to 930 North Fair Oaks Avenue and 3357 to 3375 East Washington Avenue in Alder District 12. This is consideration of a conditional use in the proposed Commercial Corridor Transitional CCT District and Transit-Oriented Development Overlay District for dwelling units in a mixed-use building with more than 100 units, and consideration of a conditional use in the CCT District for single-family dwelling to allow construction of a 5-story mixed-use building with 3,300 square feet of commercial space and 171 dwelling units, and a 2-story, 6-unit townhouse building. And then finally, item 9 is Legistar 89776, and that is approving a certified survey map of property owned by Four Lakes Property LLC and Dayton Orchard LLC, located at 120 through 126 North Orchard Street, 1313 Randall Court, 1314 Randall Court, and 1309 to 1311 West Dayton Street in Alder District 8. All right. I will open the public hearing and close the public hearing on these 5 consent agenda items, and we'll move for a vote. Is there a motion and a second for the consent agenda for approval? Commissioner Solheim, thank you. Commissioner Heck, I think you got in there under the wire as second. Thank you. Is there any objection to unanimous approval for the 5 consent items? And seeing no hands, the consent agenda passes unanimously. So we have a couple other administrative items for consent. The first item, 8, is Legistar 89762. And the request in this item is to place on file without prejudice. And that request is, it relates to 120 through 126 North Orchard Street and 1313 Randall Court, 1314 Randall Court, and Alder District 8. And that is consideration of a conditional use in the traditional residential urban 2 district, TRU2 district, for a multifamily dwelling with between 37 and 60 units. Consideration of a conditional use in the TRU2 district for a building exceeding 6 stories and 78 feet in height, and consideration of conditional use for a parking reduction of more than 20 automobile spaces and 25% or more of the required parking, all to allow construction of an 8-story, 48-unit apartment building. Could I ask for a motion and a second to place this item on file without prejudice? Alder Uguer, thank you. Alder Field, thank you. There's no public hearing for this item since it would be placed on file. And so is that right, Megan? Just to double check, do I open and close the public hearing?
I think we might as well go ahead and just open and close the public hearing.
Yeah. I think so too, thanks. So we'll open the public hearing and close the public hearing. We'll ask Alder Uguer and Alder Field for negative consent to renew their motions after the public hearing. And I'll ask if there's objection to unanimous approval for the item. And seeing none, that will be placed on file with prejudice.
Without prejudice. That'll be placed on file.
Sorry, without prejudice. Thank you. Sorry, this is a complicated consent agenda. All right, item 12 is placed on consent for referral to our next meeting at the applicant's request. That item is Legistar 89236, relating to 136 West Wilson Street in Alder District 4. And that's consideration of a conditional use in the UMX Urban Mixed Use District for a new building and consideration of a conditional use permit to Madison General Ordinance Section 128.134 paren 3 for projections into the Capitol View preservation limit to allow construction of a 16-story apartment building with 320 units. And that is a referral item. There would be no public hearing. So again, I would ask for a motion and a second to approve that one on consent. Alder Glenn, thank you. And Commissioner Solheim, thank you. Any objection to unanimous approval for the referral of item 12? Seeing none, that item will be referred. So thank you. Let me just go back to our agenda item. I think that takes us to item 4 into our regular agenda. So
I believe item 6.
sorry, nope, we did 4 and 5. Sorry, we have, yep. So item 6, thank you. All right, items 6 and 7 are related and will be considered as one public hearing. And we will make separate findings and motions on each agenda item. So item 6 is Legistar 89899. creating section 28.022-00728 of the Madison General Ordinances to change the zoning of property located at 6303 Portage Road and 4821 Hepker Road from temporary A agriculture district to TRP traditional residential plan district, and this is in Alder District 17. The related item is Legistar 89767, approving the preliminary plat of the Leo Living on property addressed as 6303 Portage Road and 4821 Hepker Road, and also in Alder District 17. It's the same property. So we will, I think, start with a staff presentation on these two items.
Yes, thank you, Chair, members of the Plan Commission. Items 6 and 7 are requests to rezone 6303 Portage Road and 4821 Hepker Road from temporary agricultural zoning to traditional residential plan zoning, and the related preliminary plat of Leo Living to allow creation of 6 lots for future residential development with approximately 210 units of single and 2-family rental housing. Some of the members of the commission will recall that a similar request was before the body in March of this year, whereby the Plan Commission recommended to the Common Council that the proposal was not consistent at that time with the city's adopted plans, and recommended against it to the Common Council, and the Common Council did effectively reject the previous rezoning request and preliminary plat. The same applicant is back with a new proposal for the property that should be considered anew. And staff believes that the current proposal generally can meet the standards and criteria for approval, noting a few things from the report that the Plan Commission should take note of. First and foremost, the zoning map amendment and preliminary plat are generally consistent with the city's adopted Ratman and Pumpkin Hollow neighborhood development plans, and staff does believe that they can meet the applicable standards for approval subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report. The residential development proposed is generally consistent with the residential housing mix 1 land use category that's recommended for approximately 60% of the site. And that includes both the density proposed and the general location of residential development on the site. The remainder of the site is recommended for stormwater management and open space due to a number of topographical conditions that are present, particularly on the southwestern portion of the site, where there is a wooded ravine that are the headwaters of Starkweather Creek's West Branch. And there's also substantial tree cover on that portion of the site. At this time, the applicant is not proposing development on that portion of the property. So the proposal is consistent with the land use recommendations and is also generally consistent with the street plan in the neighborhood plans as it pertains to a north-south collector street extending the length of the property from Hepker Road to the southern property line, and 2 east-west streets that would support future residential development on the adjacent properties. However, staff has identified need for a 3rd east-west street, which would extend from Road A to the eastern property line, which would be located south of Road C, probably within approximately 300 feet of the southern property line. Staff believes that the southernmost private lane that's shown in the TRP master plan that accompanies the rezoning request, that private lane could instead be that 3rd east-west local street in order to be fully consistent with the land use and street plan in both the Ratman and Pumpkin Hollow neighborhood development plans. In addition to the 3rd east-west street, staff believes that the applicant is required to provide a second public access to the site, as noted in the staff report. The subdivision regulations look to the building code and fire code for guidance on the number of access points that are provided to future development. The size of the site and the number of future dwelling units would dictate that 2 public access points would be provided to serve the proposed Leo Living subdivision. And staff is proposing conditions of approval that would say that either a second public access is dedicated and constructed by the development team, or at a minimum, all of the buildings within the forthcoming development will be sprinklered. You'll see comments from the fire department in their recommended conditions of approval to this effect. It's also spoken to in condition 6 in the planning division comments that basically in lieu of providing that second public access point, that full sprinklering of all the buildings will be required as noted. And the project will require conditional use approval by the Plan Commission to move forward. More detailed plans will be forthcoming with a conditional use application to follow tonight's meeting. And it would be expected that either there would be resolution on the second access or that the buildings would be fully sprinklered. And that would be one of the ways that the Plan Commission would need to find that the conditional use standards are met with that subsequent application. For the purposes of concluding tonight's presentation, staff again is recommending approval. Condition number 1, however, requests that a revised preliminary plat be submitted that satisfies all the conditions that are contained in the October 20th staff report, and that revised preliminary plat would come back before the Plan Commission and Common Council and guide the final platting of the subdivision as it moves forward. Thank you. That concludes my staff overview, and I'd be happy to answer comments after the public hearing.
Thanks, Planner Parks. We do have registrants for this item, so we're going to open the public hearing. And we'll let our registrants know that we have a 3-minute time limit for speaking. And we'll try to interrupt briefly with, in the last minute to give you a warning that it's almost time, if possible. So Megan, would you lead us through the registrants?
Okay, our first registrant tonight for this item is Brian Randall, representing Adveneer Azora Development, which is the applicant team. So I think just Brian is going to speak to this item, and then I'll note some additional members of the applicant team after that.
That sounds good. Brian,
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Good to be here. Sorry, I'm just on the phone, but this is Brian Randall, attorney with Amundsen Davis, law firm 111 East Kilbourne Avenue in Milwaukee, representing Adveneer Azora Development, and pleased to be here. Hope that I don't need all 3 minutes. Tim did a very nice job with the main recap of everything, and most importantly is the negative memory that we had. We were denied earlier this year, but it was a substantially different plan, and in working with staff and frankly working first with the property owner, our seller, we were able to obtain and put under contract more land to then shift the development to where it's shown in our submission now and keep that southwest area as the open space and wooded area. So we were able to refine our plans, continue to work with staff, and we will continue to work with staff through the long list of conditions, some of which were highlighted by Tim, but we were privy to all those, and we are prepared to go forward with them. We know that we will need the conditional use permit, and so that's when we will take care of things for the most part, although noting the first condition about updating the preliminary plat. We have reached out to 17th District Alder Sabrina Madison, try to keep her in the loop as much as possible. And the overall project is remaining what we presented before, which is a Class A new market rate housing development with a variety of housing options, from cottages to row houses to townhouses and duplexes. We will have a variety of public infrastructure added for the site to accommodate the development, as well as a number of resident amenities from clubhouses and various features. Certainly, we are available for any questions online. I believe Joanne Rubio, who is the development manager, has registered, and other members of our project team may be available to answer questions. But we recognize this is the important next step of the process. We'll have to go to the Common Council, and then we will come back through with our conditional use permit. Thank you to the Commission. We look forward to any questions that you have.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, as Brian noted, we do have Joanne Rubio, also representing the development team, and Alaric Hubner, representing Pinnacle Engineering Group, who I believe is also with the engineering team. So both of them are also available to answer questions. And then our final registrant for this item is Ryan Balch, who represents Dane County Regional Airport, registered neither in support or opposition, but available to answer questions if there are any about the comments that were included on the agenda for the airport.
Thanks, Megan. Are there questions from the commissioners for any of our registrants? All right. Seeing no raised hands, we'll close the public hearing and ask the same question. Are there questions from the commissioner for staff, or Tim or others? Alder Uguer.
Thank you, Chair. Question to Tim Parks. In the staff report, and I think this is page 7, it was written, it may be appropriate to rezone portions of the site not recommended or proposed for development to a more restrictive district or districts that reflect the limited nature of portions of the site, in particular the portion of Lot 3 located west of the housing along and just west of Road A, which is a wooded ravine apparently. And my question, Tim, is why aren't we doing this now? Why would this be considered later instead?
Sure. Thank you, Alder. It's a good question. And really it boils down to there are some areas of the site that may be suitable for more restrictive zoning classifications, but we probably will not know that until we see the revised preliminary plat. For example, the Parks Division is requesting that a park be dedicated generally west of Road A, south of Road C. In fact, I have a graphic that I can call up, hopefully. That they would like dedicated, that they put some basic guardrails in their recommended conditions, and that included rezoning the park to Parks and Recreation, which is the active open space zoning classification as opposed to conservancy. It's possible as we move forward with the platting of the site and we establish not only that space for the proposed park, which will be located in roughly this portion of the site, that we will have areas that are going to be dedicated or proposed for dedication for public stormwater management. There's a number of conditions from the City Engineering Division, both the main office and the mapping section, that speak to that. And once those outlots are known, it may be appropriate to zone some of those stormwater areas to conservancy, which would be effectively a more restrictive classification than TRP. It's true that the TRP zoning master plan would provide some guidance in lieu of more restrictive rezoning, but I think we'll know what amount of land needs to be rezoned and to what districts once we see the revised preliminary plat, working with the project team on the next iteration of the Leo Living subdivision to kind of answer many of the conditions of approval that are before the Plan Commission tonight.
Thank you, Tim. To summarize, we need to see the next version of the plat to be able to better identify those areas which we might proactively zone to a more restrictive use. Have I got that right?
Yes, effectively.
Thank you.
Thanks,
And
Auditor.
one quick addition that I'll add, I think why the location of some of those dedications on the revised preliminary plat are particularly important is because to the extent that they're in separate lots or outlots, we typically prefer to apply zoning districts that follow parcel boundaries rather than splitting parcels, and that those revisions can help us more accurately map those districts in the future.
Thanks, Megan. Commissioner Heck.
Thank you. Tim, I was when I initially read the discussion of the need for the applicant to return with a revised preliminary plat and the condition of approval number 1, I thought, oh, what you're saying is we really, really mean you must satisfy the conditions of approval, but that's not it. I think my interpretation now is you want them to come back to Plan Commission with the revised preliminary plat rather than moving beyond that. Is that correct?
Well, the recommendation is for the Plan Commission to recommend approval of the zoning map amendment and the preliminary plat to the Common Council tonight, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report. We did a very similar thing last December with the Hill Valley subdivision over on the west side of the city, where we could find that the preliminary plat was consistent with adopted plans, or generally consistent with adopted plans, but there were a lot of design refinements that needed to be done in order to be able to advance that project to final platting. And probably not said in the staff report, and the underpinning of why we would like a revised preliminary plat is final plats that are in substantial conformance with approved preliminary plats are entitled to approval under state statute. So I don't think we're at that level of detail with this project, similar to how we were not at that acceptable level of detail with Hill Valley. There were enough refinements with the latter that we just needed to see, the Plan Commission needed to see how all of the conditions, particularly in the gray boxes, the major non-standard conditions, were being met so that, you know, the final plat that comes forward, or in the case of Hill Valley, the multiple final plats that come forward can be found to be in substantial conformance with that revised preliminary plat. So here we're going to have an outlot for a park at a minimum. We're probably going to have at least one, possibly more outlots for public stormwater management, which we don't know what those will look like. Whether or not they need more restrictive zoning, how exactly the third east-west street running between Road A and the eastern property line will look. And so the revised preliminary plat gives us an opportunity to say aye, yes, or no to all of those things before or concurrent with the final plat, because the final plat is it's very firm, it's very definitive, and once it's approved, that's what is effectively going into the ground.
Thanks. That makes sense. So it is possible that we could see, Plan Commission could see a revised preliminary plat at the same time we get the final plat, and that would presume that staff had advised the applicant that all was well.
We will do like what we did with Hill Valley, which the revised preliminary plat was before you, I believe, February of this year, concurrent with their first final plat, and we had a separate legislative item for the revised preliminary plat, separate from the final plat. We spoke specifically to the changes to the preliminary plat and how they addressed the comments from the earlier approval, and then likewise had separate comments and conditions for the final plat, so that it was very clear what the Plan Commission and Common Council were approving in that case, and I would anticipate something very similar for Leo Living.
Okay, thanks. I guess I'm paying more attention this time than with the other item on the west side, but that makes sense, and I appreciate the explanation.
Sure.
Commissioner Bazine.
I think this is to piggyback off of Commissioner Heck's question, and I'm wondering, Tim or Megan, if you could help me understand. It seems like there's some instances where, when there's still recommendations and things to be worked out, those things get moved further down, and we see them when they're closer to their final stage. And so I'm trying to understand why sometimes we see things closer to the final stage, and why in this instance there are still things to be worked out, but we would vote and then get a revision.
Well, I think in this case, the primary driver for that is state statute gives local units of government, like our fair city, 90 days from when we receive a complete application to either approve, conditionally approve, or deny that preliminary plat. And so the preliminary plat is the concept plan, if you will, for how the final plat or the certified survey map, which are more final instruments, the things that go into the ground, the things that land is conveyed to owners, etc. That preliminary plats are basically, we're approving the concept. The final plat, if that substantially conforms to the preliminary plat, we have 60 days. And if we find that it's in substantial conformance, it's entitled to approval. And that's actually a very accurate paraphrasing of statute. They're very, very declarative about those sorts of things. So what we're proposing tonight is that there is a plat before you that is generally consistent with our adopted plans, that can meet the standards and criteria for approval, but that there is more work to be done. So there's no reason in staff's opinion to say no to it, but lots of conditions to yes. And one of those is we need to see, more lines on the map, more detail in certain places. And then we can say that those final instruments, probably a final plat in this case, is in conformance, because we're not just saying that it's in conformance with the preliminary plat, we're saying that that preliminary plat is effectively very much in conformance with our adopted plans. So that's why we're being motivated by state statute to act in the affirmative, but with conditions.
One final thing I'll just add is that often when we find that there are things that can help a project get closer to a plan, consistency issue, or to meet other major elements that city agencies have reviewed and identified, that's where our conditions come into play. And if we think that something is pretty far off from that, that's when you actually start to see a recommendation of referral, or in rare cases, a recommendation to place on file.
Alder Uyghur.
So to summarize those explanations, I take it that a proper motion when we get to item 7 would be to accept the submitted preliminary plat, subject to the conditions in the October 2020 report, among which are a condition requiring the submittal of a revised preliminary plat. Have I got that right?
Yes, I think chief among them is, as Tim noted, there are a number of conditions, but I think chief among them being the submission of that revised preliminary plat would be a fine one to note in your motion.
Thank you.
Alder Glenn.
That just tickled me, because I was like, you get to repeat that, Alder here. My question is totally not about plat, as I'm listening and learning in that, but the way these divide up over here with what area it is, there's right before that, there's a district that's all Stoughton schools, but it's kind of looks like Madison, and then there's Madison, and then there's Stoughton. Not Stoughton, DeForest. I don't know why I'm saying Stoughton, DeForest. So would this be all in that area? Is this Madison School District? Because then on the other side is Sun Prairie right behind Hollow.
This site and the parcels to the north and west in particular are in the DeForest Area School District.
It is DeForest. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions for staff? So I think we would start with item 6, Registrar 89899, which is the recommendation to council to change the zoning of the property, or recommendation with respect to the zoning of the property. Commissioner Solheim.
I'll note that as this proposal is generally consistent with the comp plan and Pumpkin Hollow neighborhood plan per the zoning map amendment standards, that I move that the Plan Commission find the standards are met and for zoning map amendment ID 28.022-00728, rezoning the site from Temp A to TRP, to the council with a recommendation of approval for the zoning map amendment and conditional approval of the TRP master plan, subject to all of the conditions in the staff report.
Thanks, Commissioner Solheim. Alder Glenn? Second, thank you. Any additional comments on the motion, discussion? All right, seeing none, is there objection to unanimous approval for the motion as presented? All right, we'll record that as unanimously approved. Thank you. The next item would be Registrar 89767, which relates to the preliminary plat conditional approval. Alder Uguer.
Thank you, Chair. I move that the Plan Commission finds that the standards for plats are met and forward the preliminary plat of Leo Living to the Common Council with a recommendation of approval subject to the conditions in the October 20th report, chief among which are the requirement for the submission of a revised preliminary plat.
Thanks, Alder Uguer. Commissioner Solheim? The second? Oh. Is there a second to the motion? Commissioner Solheim? Yes. All right.
Remember if we had a second already.
Nope, they did. Yep. Alder Uguer's motion. Commissioner Solheim will be the second. Any further comments to the motion? Questions or discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll call a vote. Is there objection to unanimous approval for Alder Uguer's motion? All right, seeing none, we'll record item 7 as approved. So thank you, and thanks to our registrants on that one. Now, we have items 10 and 11, and I'll read the Legistar items. And I would just comment that I think that we do want to have this discussion given the scope of this project, but also just because of the need to change the agenda. We want to just make sure that this is a transparent discussion and process for this project. So item 10 is Legistar 89774. Relating to 3222 through 3238 East Washington Avenue and 3229 Ridgeway Avenue in Alder District 12. And this item is consideration of a conditional use in the traditional residential urban 2 TRU2 district for offices for human service programs. and consideration of a conditional use in the TRU2 district for a building exceeding 4 stories and 52 feet in height to allow construction of a 5-story mixed-use building with 91 apartments and an office for a human service program. Item 11 is Legistar 90015, approving a certified survey map of property owned by Volker Development, Inc., located at 3222 through 3238 East Washington Avenue and 3229 Ridgeway Avenue in Alder District 12. So we will have one public hearing for both those items, and we'll start with a planning staff presentation. Planner Putt, welcome.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So as noted, the applicant is requesting conditional uses for 91. And again, thank you for the correction to the agenda, 91 dwelling units in a mixed use building, as well as that office for human service programs in the TRU2 zoning district, as well, and then the certified survey map to create the new parcel. The existing residential buildings on this site have previously been approved for demolition by the Plan Commission back in March of this year, at which time the parcels were also rezoned to TRU2 by the Common Council. For the proposal before the Commission tonight, staff would draw the Commission's attention to 2 of the conditional use standards noted in the staff report. Starting with condition 3, because of the substantial grade change across the site, sloping up from East Washington toward Ridgeway Avenue at the rear. The building is actually 5 stories along East Washington, but only 3 stories along Ridgeway Avenue. The proposal includes a step back of the upper floor along Ridgeway Avenue. As the Commission is aware, such a step back is required for some other zoning districts, but not required in the TRU2. Nevertheless, the applicant has included that step back and oriented the building mass and the courtyard to minimize the impact on those neighboring residential properties. Secondly, regarding Standard 8, the proposal has been reviewed by the Urban Design Commission as it is located in Urban Design District 5, and UDC is an approving body for the request. At their most recent meeting, the UDC did grant their final approval to the proposal with conditions. So when considering the recommendations of the adopted plans, as well as the findings and the conditions of the UDC, and taking into account those considerations for standards 3 and 8, staff does believe that all applicable standards for conditional uses and for land divisions can be found met. And after the public hearing, I am happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Colin. We have registrants for this item, so we'll open the public hearing. And again, remind speakers of our 3-minute time limit. I think we may have pooled registrants as well. And Megan, will you lead us through the registrant list?
All right, Chair. Yes, we do have a request from the applicant team to pool their time. We are going to hear from Matthew Tills, representing Knothi and Bruce Architects, Kevin Burrow, representing Knothi and Bruce Architects, and Travis Fochild of Volker Development, that will present to you first for a pooled time of a maximum of 9 minutes.
Great.
Thanks.
Hello, everybody. This is Matt Tills. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, welcome. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you to the Plan Commission and to staff for the opportunity to present this evening. My name is Matt Tills. I'm meeting here on behalf of the Volker Group. I am with Knothi and Bruce Architects, and we'll be presenting this project to you tonight. The project is 91 units, as Colin mentioned. The project came to fruition in a slightly different form previously, with a different program, and then this most recent version here, we feel better complements the spaces that that are coming online as part of the Fairways development. That's the Fair Oaks development that's down the street from this. So the project will be for senior housing. It's affordable housing units and 91 units, as we mentioned. Next slide, please. The project is located along East Washington and Carpenter. It's a fairly low density residential site there. Most notable, as Colin indicated, by the significant topographical change between East Washington and Ridgeway, which is approximately 20 vertical feet between the two. And we're using that really to our advantage to try to mitigate the height of the building as it moves into the site. And we're really pushing this project into the site, into Ridgeway, so that almost exclusively all the underground parking is subterranean on this project. Next slide, please. Here's some images of the site context, and we can certainly return to these as needed. Next slide, please. So for the site plan, I just want to bring attention to, we have two parking entrances, one coming off of the primary parking entrance coming off of East Washington Avenue on the sort of southwest corner. That would be, there would also be 5 guest parking stalls on that access. That would be to access approximately 67 stalls of underground parking for a lower parking area. And then we have parking that would enter off of Carpenter Street on the east side. And that would be for approximately 1/3 of the parking stalls there. That would be for 32 parking stalls. We've situated the building with trying to maximize the number of exterior walk-up units. So we have 3 walk-up units along East Washington Avenue, and then we have 4 walk-up units along Ridgeway. Walk-up units along Carpenter Street were really challenging just because of the topography. We did manage to get a pedestrian entrance to the building that's just to the south of the parking entrance there. I do want to also kind of call attention to, we're addressing some of we understand that there is some concern about parking, of traffic related to the site. So along Carpenter Street, there will be some widening of the street, particularly on our side. So some dedication to the right of way there. And we would to widen that street, give a little bit more space there for any additional traffic that may be a result of this. We do understand and recognize that we have been requested to do a traffic analysis, and we will be doing that traffic analysis. We don't anticipate challenges with that, but anything that does come up through that traffic analysis, we will certainly work with city staff and can address things if anything is needed as an adjustment to the plan. Next slide, please. The landscape plan is a fairly robust landscape plan, really focusing on buffer along the building, on all of the street sides, as well as a really generous interior courtyard space for the use of the residents. That would be a fairly private courtyard space there. It is elevated so that it's on a plaza level that is on the second level of the building itself. So it would be elevated up and screened from the neighbors that are to the left, to the west. Next slide, please. Here you can see the building plans. 1 and 2 bedroom units is the mix. And we do have ample facilities for common area rooms and exercise facilities for the residents. Those would be on the second floor, plugging into and overlooking that courtyard space. And then as mentioned, there would be a small community service facility that would be for the use of the residents as well as the public. That would be on the corner of East Washington and Carpenter Street. Next slide, please. Here you can see the 3 street side elevations. At the top there is the 5-story version as it is expressed on East Washington. And then as it steps, as it goes up along Carpenter Street and transitions to what is on the bottom of the sheet there, which is the Ridgeway elevation, which is a 3-story building along that street with a step down on the easternmost side, or the westernmost side, excuse me. And next slide, please. And some additional views of the courtyard spaces there. Next slide, please. Here's a view of the project from East Washington. The building itself is set back approximately 40 feet from that western property line that is adjacent to an existing single-family residence. It would be buffered by landscaping. It's been sort of screened in this rendering here just to be able to see the building itself. But there is fairly significant landscaping that the intention is to keep that as to the greatest extent possible as a sort of visual buffer and between that adjacent property. The materials for this project are a generous amount of masonry in 2 different tones, horizontal composite siding, and some composite panels. And we're just using them in various mixtures. The color areas of that kind of rust red color really is intended to sort of indicate entry points and sort of significant corners. One of the comments from the UDC that we are going to be implementing is slightly more consistency on that along the Ridgeway side too, adding some of those color elements in there and the entry canopies for the walk-ups along Ridgeway. Next slide, please. Here's the corner of East Washington and Carpenter. Here you can see we've got an elevated entry point there, which is a little more of a commercial style entry, and that would be the primary entry off of the corner, which we feel gives prominence to the sort of the busyness of the street there. Next slide. This is the secondary entry to the parking, which is on the sort of the northern part of the Carpenter Street side. And here you can see, I guess, these scalloped landscaped terraced walls that we have that would be really giving sort of a nice buffer against the building, and what is behind that would be the parking area. So we are trying to screen that and shield that as much as possible. Next slide, please. This is a view along Ridgeway, and this is the side that does step down, so you can see how it would be presented as essentially a 2-story building along the closest neighbor there to the west. Next slide, please. And just a view. This is an elevated view, so just to give an indication of the quality of the space that we're really looking for in that outdoor courtyard space for the residents. There would be screening of this view from the neighbor, from the perspective that we're looking at it now, so that you would never really have this view from the house there next door. But I just wanted to show that just to give you an indication of the quality of the space.
Matthew, you have about 20 seconds left, if that's okay.
And I think we're just about done. Next slide.
Okay.
Is the end. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our other registrant on this item is Chris Dawson from JSD Professional Services, I believe also with the applicant team, registered in support and available for questions. And that is all we have, Chair.
Great, thank you. Are there questions from the commissioners for any registrants or any of our registrants? Alder, you here?
Thank you, Chair. For the development team, I realize that at this point it's premature for anything approaching even a preliminary stormwater plan, but I was wondering if you have some general ideas how you'll be dealing with stormwater on this very unique site.
I think I would like for Chris, if Chris Dawson could answer to that, I think he'd probably be the most appropriate. Or if Chris isn't available, I can.
Yep.
There we go. I think you can hear me now.
Yes.
We can. Yep.
Yeah. So it is a bit tricky. We will be using a variety of different strategies with this particular site. There will be various subterranean treatment devices that will promote detention and infiltration, as well as using green roof features on top of the building.
Thanks, Chris.
Alder Glenn.
Good evening. So I'm wondering if you have got your traffic study in or engineering. It says that they're still waiting on a study for this project.
We do not have the traffic study completed at this time. It is underway.
Okay. And then I loved seeing the photos of the center, just thinking of the ages of those using it, thinking of parks around the area. So that's a nice outside space. Do you, with the way it sits back there and comes, I'm not going to talk very well planning wise, but the 4 stories coming up, that is against the back end, right? That faces outwards, like towards thinking back facing, which would be like 30, correct? So like if you're sitting on the back of Ridgeway, is that where that part, the higher part faces?
The highest part is I guess the way to think about it is the entire building is basically the roof height is the same. And so along East Washington, it's 5 stories, and then as it sort of steps up and that roof height remains the same, the ground level sort of rises up and then creates sort of a 3-story exposure on Ridgeway. It's a U-shaped building, and the open side would be the side that is facing toward the west. And then the U shape is really, kind of up along Carpenter and Ridgeway.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Heck.
Thank you. This is for the development team. I'm interested in the disconnect between the 2 levels of the parking facilities, and it looks to me like the vast majority of, cars will exit and enter off of East Wash, but also bicycles. I think something like 90% of the bicycle spots will have to enter and exit on East Wash. I noticed in condition number 24, there's some talk of easement, perhaps on East Wash, to make a wider sidewalk that may accommodate bicycles. Can you kind of familiarize me with what your thinking is with regard to bikes in that lower level of parking?
Well, we will have, I guess, speaking to the sidewalks, we will be providing kind of from the street side, there'll be an 8-foot terrace, which is an additional terrace width, and then a 5-foot wide sidewalk, which is wider, I believe, than what is currently on site. This is kind of the standard that we're finding on projects now, are that 8-foot terrace and a 5-foot sidewalk. There is, I guess, there's not really any distinct reason why we've got more parking or bicycle parking down below, other than there was more space that was available there. However, because there is such a buffer there, and there is a sort of a strong pedestrian, the sidewalk there that I was kind of referring to, I guess whether you're coming out on the Carpenter side or you're coming out on the side that is the East Washington, you would be essentially kind of walking your bike out onto that sort of sidewalk area. Either way, I think in some cases too, I think maybe looking at it as well as is the sort of steepness of the Carpenter Street side might be a little more challenging too for getting bikes in and out of there. However, we don't, I guess it certainly could be navigable. We don't have an issue with that. But yeah, I think it was just more of a factor of that was where there was additional space for the accommodating the bicycles on the lower level.
Okay, thank you. I guess I also look to see if I were a cyclist coming out on East Wash, where am I going? And East Wash is not where most bicyclists are going. It's not safe, even though there are better bike lanes than in the past. But I think they might be trying to get up to the Starkweather Creek, which I think they would need to do via Carpenter and wending their their way through the little neighborhood that's to the north. I guess I'd encourage you to consider moving more of the bike stalls to that other level, but I'll have to think about that. Thanks for your answers.
Sure, absolutely.
Thanks, Alder Glenn.
It says in your application that you are having a space for social human services. Did I hear you? Did you present that and I was just reading? Or could you show me on the plans where that will be at?
Sure, that is on, and that is that space would be on the corner of the East, sort of the main entrance on the corner of East Washington and Carpenter. There is a space carved out for that, which then would have a street presence for that commercial space, and that really would be kind of the most prominent, portion of that corner entry would be dedicated to that social services area space.
And what was the square footage of that?
It's about 340 square feet.
Okay. And have you spoken to anybody or had conversations with who it would be you'd be looking to work with?
I believe the development team has been in communications with various potential vendors. One that I guess is a possibility is Lutheran Social Services, and they do have experience for other projects of similar makeup on this with those providers. And if somebody from the Volker Group would be able to speak, I guess, more eloquently to that, Travis might be able to answer that more.
Yes, Matt, I am confirming Lutheran Social Services of Wisconsin and Michigan is committed to this project as a social service, supportive service provider, but also a development partner of the project. And that's a group we've worked with on our projects for over 10 years. So they will be on site almost every day during business hours during the week.
Oh, okay. So it will be like staffed or like full-time and not so much drop-in space?
That is correct. Yep, they'll be working right across in conjunction with the property management team, who also has space on that corner.
Okay, thank you.
I just had a quick question maybe for Matthew. Could you talk a little bit about public engagement on this project with the neighbors? Has that happened?
There was an initial neighborhood meeting November of last year on this project, which was the original, the program initially was not for senior housing as it's being presented this evening. It was for affordable housing, but for all ages and families. And I think there were some concerns in that meeting that we have worked to try to address, some of which were building entrances. The massing on the building is actually quite a bit, has changed significantly since that as well. But that was the last neighborhood meeting that was on this project.
Thanks. Thanks. Any other questions for registrants? If not, I will close the public hearing on these two items and ask if commissioners have questions for staff. Commissioner Heck.
Thank you. A question for Colin about what I was asking about with the bicycle stalls. I'm not an architect. I glanced at the plans for both levels, and there doesn't really seem to be, at my cursory glance, a way to just swap out a couple parking spaces on one level and moving them to the other. It looks like they've perhaps done a pretty good job of squeezing as much parking for automobiles in there as they can. Would a condition of approval be appropriate if it were just asking that they explore moving some of the bike stalls, more of the bike stalls to the second level without requiring it? Or is that too mushy in your opinion?
I would say from experience, very often parking counts are not super solid in any case anyway. I think a condition encouraging the applicant or directing them to explore moving some of those stalls from one level to the other would be appropriate. I think there are probably some spaces on that second floor that could accommodate more bicycle parking. I wouldn't be able to speak to whether the vehicular parking can shift a lot, but I think they could definitely explore moving some of those bicycle parking spots.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? If not, we would, I think the first item for consideration is the conditional use permit 89774, where we'd be looking for a motion. Commissioner Heck.
Thank you. I will move that the conditional use standards are met for 3222 to 3238 East Washington Avenue and 329 Ridgeway Avenue, Legistar 89774, for offices for human services programs and for a building exceeding 4 stories and 52 feet in height to allow a construction of a 5-story mixed-use building with 91 apartments and an office for a human services program, subject to the comments and conditions in the staff report, as well as an additional condition of approval that recommends that the applicants explore having more bike parking on the upper level of the 2 parking levels.
Thanks, Commissioner Heck. Alderfield? Second, thank you. Any further discussion? I think we understand your proposed additional condition, Commissioner Heck. So if absent any discussion, we can call a vote. Is there objection to unanimous approval for this item? All right, seeing none, we'll record that as approved. The next item is the certified survey map, creating the lot. Commissioner Solheim, thank you.
I'll move that the Plan Commission find the standards for land division are met and forward the CSM to council with a recommendation of approval subject to the conditions of the staff report.
Thank you. Alder Glenn? Second, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, any objection to unanimous approval for item 11? All right, thank you. That item is also approved. That is all of our public hearing items for tonight. We now have time for member announcements, communications, or business items. If anyone has any of those. All right, Commissioner Heck.
I have a quick question, if that's allowable.
Sounds good.
Well, I'll make it a comment since you didn't ask for questions. My comment is, I hope we are able to receive the schedule of 2026 Plan Commission meetings in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. That sounds like homework for Megan and me, which I think we will get after. So thank you. Any other communications or business items? All right. That brings us to the secretary's report. And Megan, I'll give you the floor.
Okay. Well, I'll start by saying that we are on our homework with our schedule for 2026. So linked in your agenda is the schedule that we have prepared at this time for your regular meetings for 2026. So we will work on sharing that with all the boards and commissions at their meetings that are coming up in the next week or so, and then also work on getting those invites out to you on your calendars as we've done in the past. The chair and I, as she noted, will also meet to talk about the special meeting schedule for next year. I know that in the past we've done them approximately quarterly. This year we did just 3 of them. So she and I will talk about a proposal for all of you and bring those dates to you in the near future. Under recent Common Council actions, I'll note there's kind of a long list of items that were forwarded at their most recent meeting, including the numerous zoning code changes that we talked about at our last meeting related to the Housing Forward Initiative. All of those were passed on the council's last agenda. When we look ahead to your meetings in November, just a couple things I want to note. Tim is not here anymore, but he pointed out earlier today that we have a couple of items that might seem out of the ordinary for the commission. That is a couple of items related to actually removing mapped future reservations for future streets from our official map. So we'll talk about those specifically within the context of those projects, but that is a fairly unusual action for the commission to take to remove those. So just flagging those for you. And then also wanted to note on the list of items for your November 17th meeting, one of the items that you're going to see 3618 Milwaukee Street is a separate development, but is immediately adjacent to the recently approved Starkweather plat at the Voigt Farm. So this is a remaining area of land between the eastern edge of the Starkweather plat and the Amazon facility on Milwaukee Street that will be essentially a continuation of the street network and the lots that will extend development just on the eastern side of the Starkweather plat. So that's one of the items that we'll see here in the near future as well. Many other items, and as always, feel free to reach out to the staff if you have any questions about these items, particularly ahead of any of the staff reports being posted. If, as you're looking at legislative files, if anything there raises a question for you, or if you have a question about any of the procedures or policies that we use for any of these items. And that's all I have for tonight, Chair.
Thanks, Megan. Alder Glenn.
I just was going to say, when you had brought up announcements of that last Thursday was such a great meeting and so helpful, especially like for new alders, of like being in a room and hearing it and seeing it. I don't know why it felt more tangible, but it did. So that meeting was really great for me, and I just wanted to say thanks to everyone who planned it.
Thanks, Alder Glenn.
Yeah, thanks for noting that. And I want to give kudos to the chair. Also, a couple of those topics were items that she identified as a new chair that she thought would be helpful. And so I'm glad to hear they were helpful for you also, and appreciate the partnership of all the city agencies and external partners that were there for that meeting too.
Agreed. Any other?
On that note, if you have thoughts about things for those special meetings, I know sometimes they're a mix of things that we want to learn about. They're a mix of things that projects that we're working on that are kind of at the more preliminary policy level before we're actually bringing something to you for action. But if there's anything that you feel could be really helpful for you at those future meetings, I'm sure speaking for the chair and myself would be happy to hear your input as we think about those meetings for next year.
Thanks. Any other questions for Megan? All right, if not, I would look for a motion to adjourn in a second. Alder Glenn, thank you. Alder Field, thank you. Any objection to unanimous approval? Seeing none, we'll stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all. Have a great night.